All right, well today we are talking about the brand new RF Nifty 50. Let's get into it. Well, hey, what's up? My name is Tony and I'm a filmmaker photographer in the St. Louis area. I just received my brand new RF Nifty 50 from B&H yesterday on Thursday. I ordered it November 4th, the day that it was pre-ordered, because the Nifty 50 is just a standard lens that I've always had in my kit. So let's talk about today. One, what are the things that I like about this versus maybe the EF version? Two, what are the things that I don't really like about this lens? And then three, do I think that you should get this lens? And the obvious answer is yes. It's 200 bucks. Why wouldn't you? All right, let's get into it. So the RF Nifty 50 is about the same exact size as its counterpart EF version. In all honesty, they look very similar. The only difference is the focus ring has been replaced with the control ring. And then you have the switch. Instead of it saying AF and MF, it says focus and control, which lets you choose if you want to use this ring as a control ring or a focus ring. And what's nice about this is it's not clicking, it's just really smooth, so you can use this as either control or focus. Now, I usually use my control rings as ISO. People use it for all different things, but for me, ISO is typically how I use it. So I like the ability to have the flexibility to use it either in manual focus or control ring. So good job there. Another thing that I really like about this is they've updated the style just slightly so it looks a little bit more modern, very similar to the 35mm and the new 85mm that just came out as well. When it comes to build quality, it's very similar to the EF version. So if you've ever used an EF STM Nifty 50, you know what kind of quality you're gonna get. For one thing, they're kind of bulletproof. They're plastic. You do get a metal housing mount, but other than that, it's a pretty plastic, small glass, very lightweight, and it makes it a very small kit to take with you if you just want to take, say, your EOS R6 and the Nifty 50, or maybe you've got an RP and a Nifty 50. That is a really tiny little package that would work out very well. 50mm, if you're not familiar, is very close to what we see as far as focal perception, in between 35 and 50. And so it's just a really pleasing lens. When it comes to 50mm, if you need just a little bit better portrait lens than a 35, or if you need a really low light lens, there's all sorts of reasons why the Nifty 50 is just, it comes in clutch whenever you need it. Okay, why don't we take just a few minutes and talk about some of the things that I'm not very excited about with this lens. It's not a lot because it's 200 bucks, but let's get into just three little things. The first one is its 43mm filter size on the front. That's annoying. I always use variable ND filters when I'm outside just because I like to be able to control all of my settings. Well, the problem is if you get a step-up ring to 43 to 67, that's a lot of weight on that focus motor. So I'm probably gonna end up having to get another 43mm filter just for this camera so that I can use it for video outside. Now photo, it doesn't really matter, but that's something for video I'm just gonna have to do. The other thing that I wish that they may have added was weather sealing on this bad boy. I know it's a cheap lens, but man, if this guy would have weather sealing, it'd be perfect for going on hikes and things like that, that maybe you're not expecting to get wet, but you get out in the rainstorm and you get wet. So I'll probably end up having to take one of my L series glasses when I go on a hike still. The only other thing that I wish that maybe they would have changed, and I kind of wondered if they were going to, is if they were going to add image stabilization. The 35mm f1.8 IS has it, the 85mm f2.0 IS, those entry-level primes all have image stabilization, and I was wondering if they were going to stick it on this guy. Shoot, I would pay an extra 100 bucks for that. Heck yeah. But for me, it doesn't matter a ton. I'm now shooting on the R6 and the R5, which both have in-body image stabilization. So that really helps with some of that smooth footage. This is some handheld shots that I've got just kind of walking around, playing around with it. So you can still get smooth shots much easier than the EF version with a camera that doesn't have in-body image stabilization, but it would have been nice to have EOS on this lens as well. All right, who do I think that this lens is for? Well, if you've got an entry-level camera, say on EOS RP, EOS R, I mean, shoot, even if you bought the R6 and the R5, you just got a lot of money, burning holes in your pocket, and you bought the kit lens, and that's all you've got, this is the perfect entry-level prime lens. You should have this with you if you've only got zooms, because what it does is it gives you that f1.8, which gives you really blurry background and helps you in low light situations. And it looks beautiful for 200 bucks. I mean, it's $200. You need to buy it. If you haven't already, just go ahead and buy it. Links in the description. Buy the lens. Anyways, if you've got a camera and you've only got zooms, this is the perfect lens to get you into the prime lenses. You don't have to invest a lot, and it's 200 bucks. Another person that I think should buy this is maybe somebody who's really hard on their gear. These things are basically disposable. My buddy dropped one of my EF 50 millimeters down the side of a mountain in Death Valley, and it broke, and it's like, it's 100 bucks. Who cares? You know, I mean, it's still 100 bucks, but I mean, that's much better than if you drop my 70 to 200, that's like $2,700. So if you're hard on your gear and you just need a little tiny lens to get you kind of all arounder, not too close, not too far, handles low light really well, this is a perfect lens for you. Now, would I suggest getting the 35 or the 50 millimeter? If you're trying to decide between these two, basically the question you need to ask yourself is, are you gonna be shooting more portraits? Because if that's the case, you want the 50 millimeter. That extra focal length is gonna make your subject look a little bit better. You're gonna get a little bit better like blurry backgrounds. Or the 35 millimeter if you're shooting a lot of video and you have to capture that kind of establishing shot. The 35 millimeter is going to be an easier one for you. This lens, the 35 millimeter f1.8 IS, is twice as expensive as this Nifty 50 though. So chances are I would suggest get the Nifty 50 and save up then for the 35 millimeter. When it comes to these entry-level primes, they're knocking it out of the park. These are great lenses. This 35 millimeter is f1.8, image stabilized, and it's got some macro in there, so you never run into that minimum focusing distance. The Nifty 50, you stop at about 1 foot, which means you can get kind of close to some things, but you still bump up against that, that macro limitation. All right, guys, well, hopefully this was really informational for you. If you've got questions, you want to see anything, make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you're most excited about, what questions you have with this. If you want to see some more examples, head on over to my Instagram. It's at Tony Mellinger on Instagram, and you're going to be able to see a lot of examples, because I'm going to be using this a lot for just kind of that run and gun, hanging out with the family, just going to the park. I'll just grab the Nifty 50, throw it on, and away we go. Other than that, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one. Before we go, I figured I would give you just a little test sample of what this footage looks like. The camera's in the same exact place of where I was using the 35 millimeter. Now we are on the classic Nifty 50. You can see the colors look great, the background looks great. If you've got the extra distance to use a little bit longer lens, the Nifty 50, it's hard to beat. All right, guys, take care. Have a good one.